Assalamu alaikum, family. You're tuned into the Sajda channel, and I'm your host, Sajda Wendy Muhammad. We're going to talk a little bit today from this powerful book, Closing the Gap, written by Minister Jabril Muhammad, who really is an angel. Jabril Muhammad, I call him Jamil. Jabril Muhammad, who really is an angel. But we'll get into it. I'm going to talk about how I began to fold spiritual principles into my business practice because my goal is to sustain myself, to thrive, and to do business in a manner that pleases Allah. So let's talk about that struggle a little bit. Be a friend, tell a friend, and I'll be right back after a few short commercials and a beautiful prayer. See you on the other side.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided aright, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee. And he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, O Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee. And I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
Assalamu alaikum, family. Welcome, welcome. You're tuned into the Sajda channel. I'm your host, Sajda Wendy Muhammad. I hope everybody is keeping warm during this winter season. It's an interesting feat, right? You got to get your sweaters out, and like I'm digging through, making sure that I got everything that I need to stay warm. My winter wardrobe is extensive. I guess because I'm so used to layering up. Every kind of way. I even went to, I was thinking about the other day, like, how long have you been in cold climates? And I'm like, I think every place I've lived, except DC, is like frigid. And DC just gets frigid sometimes. But anyway, welcome everyone. I wanted to kind of extend our conversation from yesterday and talk a little bit about matching our belief systems with our actions. And this is a big deal because there's so many of us that we operate with a desire, but we don't quite know how to make our actions. So what do I mean by our actions? The way we do business, the way we treat people, the way we respond to things don't always match up with our belief systems, right? So some of us, our behaviors are just very predatorial. And so, but we don't realize that. And sometimes, a lot of times I always think, let it off the hook or sometimes let people off the hook because a lot of us don't realize that we're doing that. We're either so insecure and so frightened that we just fire back with anger, or we're just always in attack mode and fight mode. We think somebody's trying to outdo us or do better than us. There's just this overall panic. And it actually impacts how we manifest, how much we manifest, and how much we are getting to our goal as a creator and as a God. And what do I mean by that? Some of us are doing pretty good, right, at this level that we're at, but we're only scratching the surface when it comes to what it is that we want. And we're scratching the surface because our beliefs and the way we conduct ourselves are not matching up. And so it's very important that you don't compare yourself to other people, get into competitive things, start pocket watching or accomplishment watching with other people, because we all showed up on the planet for a reason. We all have a divine assignment. And look, things that you've been through to get where you got, I probably couldn't do it. And I may not have even survived it, and vice versa. So there's no need in me competing because I don't want to go through what you went through to get what you got. And that's just the real talk about it. I have been very, very, very blessed in my life to be able to recognize early on that Allah was moving me around and doing certain things, keeping me out of certain environments, keeping me in certain environments. So many bullets that I could say, if I use the common vernacular, that I dodged a lot of bullets, but I can't even take credit for it. And so I'm very careful about comparing accomplishments or just comparing myself to other people, not because I think I'm better, but primarily because I can't honestly say that I would have been able to, or that I would go through what that person went through to get where they are. So I'm like, let me handle my little story, over here. I was talking to a powerful sister the other day, and she'd been through some really challenging relationships. And, we were just having a conversation, and I said, my gosh, I think that would have broken me. I don't know that I would have been able to survive that. But she's in a position now where, because of surviving that situation, she's giving back on a massive scale. And we were just talking about donor cultivation and, sponsorships for preservation efforts. And, she was very forthcoming in sharing just kind of how she's able to do these things. And I just thought, I don't know that I would have survived it. So I'm very careful about that. So I want to help us to focus on going into principles of business so that we're doing business in a manner that pleases Allah. Now, in the society that we live, it's impossible to really be perfect. The idea is that we want to be found striving. It's difficult to be in business and not have to pay interest, for example, which is against Islamic law. It's difficult to navigate in certain ways. And sometimes we are in positions where we got to put a little fire on somebody, or we got to push back, and we just have to be careful. And I think it's also important. I get this question a lot because I talk a lot about inner circle and concentric circles. And, how in business, sometimes we make the mistake because we may find that there are synergies from a business standpoint where we say, okay, this is part of my inner circle. And maybe that person's not part of your inner circle. Maybe they're in one of the concentric circles around you, but they're not like, right up next to you in that kind of familiar manner. And somebody asked me, or I'm always getting asked the question about how do you know? And I said, well, first you have to know yourself. And if you know yourself and know what things deal with you, like for me, I'm a very audio person. So I don't like people who, and I'm a very, what do I say? I'm audio and I'm definitely empathic, but I'm audio and I don't like encroachments or disrespect. So if you're ever around me and you do business with me, or I'm very careful about respect and not disrespecting you. I'm not going to ask you certain questions about certain things that may be considered disrespectful or that may pry into your personal life. I'm going to let you share what you feel comfortable sharing. And if you desire for me to respond, I even wait for that because I'm just careful of people's space. But I also know, though, that because that's how I am, if I have somebody in my close inner circle who is like that, it's not going to work. So I know that if I have somebody like that, I have to place a little bit of distance between me and that person, because I'm not good with people who talk to people any kind of way. I'm not really good with people who are very prying and very, authoritative. And I don't do good with that. And so it doesn't necessarily mean that I may not be able to do a contract with you. It just may mean that there's a place in one of the concentric circles for you that's not up here and up close. Has nothing to do with you. Has everything to do with me and what I'm comfortable with and how I move. So part of this is knowing yourself and knowing what makes you comfortable. Some people say, I like people who get with somebody. I like people who get in somebody's face. And I'm that kind of person that, for the most part, I'm not predatorial. I'm not aggressive. I'll even let you slide with a few slick comments and let things just kind of flow. Because I know me and I know when I turn it on, it's going to be a fire that's going to be uncomfortable. So I always say that I have my alter ego, right? So like this is Sajda. She's up in the front. And then right behind Sajda is Wendy. And she can be pretty discerning. But then back there is is a serious warrior that just sits back there. And sometimes she'll say, I got this. And she'll come out with the big gun. So we don't want her to come out. And that's just me being silly, but it's kind of how I divide up my own personal belief system. But think about that. Whatever works for you, what's comfortable for you, what do you like? Some people don't like people who talk a lot. Some people say, I don't like people who talk a lot. Well, then you probably shouldn't have a business partner that talks a lot. Or you shouldn't have people in your board or up close on you that talk a lot. Or strategically, you figure out what are my weaknesses and that person has a strength. And so this is where I'm going to place them. So it's all about getting us to customize our approach to life so that we, to the best of our ability, can be pleasing to Allah. Right? It's like marrying somebody who likes to party. Like I'm not a partier. Like if I never went to another party, I don't care. I like having a good time, but I'm not one to be in like nightlife and out like that. I'm not that person. And I remember that I associated that with fun, and I used to be like that. And I always wonder why I just didn't like it. And I said, because this don't make sense. And then once I came in the nation, that gave me my reason to go, yeah, I don't like this. So I like dinner parties. I like social settings. Had one yesterday evening where we're, sitting around. Maybe there's pizza, maybe there's some chai. We're just talking, sharing ideas. I love music where we're sitting around listening to music, even maybe a little singing or something like that. But I like that kind of stuff. That's my fun idea of getting together. But so today, to help us with all of this, I'm going to just kind of read and share a little bit from this book entitled Closing the Gap. It is Closing the Gap is inner views of the heart, mind, and spirit of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, conducted and compiled by Jabril Muhammad. And when I tell you that this book is powerful, it is powerful. If you see mine, it's all marked up. I probably need to get another one that I just keep clean, but it's all marked up, and I don't have my tabs in here, but you can just see from how I've got it marked up because I'm going through everything, and I've been through it several times. But I wanted to begin, and I read this a little bit on the Money Psychology Marathon, but I think it's worth going through again for this discussion. And it's a great companion segment, not the whole book, but a great companion segment referring to this segment that I'm going to read for my book, The Art and Science of Business, okay, which you can get with that QR code, okay? So let me just read to you this part. So Brother Jabril is asking the minister different questions. And one of the questions is this one. He says, Brother Minister, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that there were 3 scientific fields of knowledge that the slave master did not want the slave to ever learn. What are those areas of knowledge, and what has that ignorance produced in us as a people? How has knowledge of music, medicine, and color help in overcoming that ignorance? I'm going to read it again. Brother Jabril said, Brother Minister, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that there were 3 scientific fields of knowledge that the slave master did not want the slaves to ever learn. What are those areas of knowledge, and what has that ignorance produced in us as a people? How does knowledge of music, medicine, and color help in overcoming that ignorance? That's a powerful, powerful, packed question, right? And Minister Farrakhan answers like this. He says, the three sciences, as I recall, were number one, the science of business. Number two, science of warfare. Number three, the science of mating. Okay, so those are the three scientists that the slave master or the colonizers did not want the slaves to learn. Now, you can extrapolate that to understand that that is a mindset that now continues to this very day. Okay, the minister goes on to say this. He says, in the word business is B-U-S-I. And the I is interchangeable with Y for busy. When a person is busy, they're active. So the science of business is the science of the life activity. The life activity that is dictated by the nature in which we're created is that we must utilize what God has given to us, develop it through knowledge and use that with what God has already put here to become productive, to be producers. That's heavy, right? I'll read it again. When a person is busy, they're active. So the science of business is the science of the life activity. The life activity that is dictated by the nature in which we're created is that we must utilize what God has given us to develop it through knowledge and use that with what God has already put here to become productive, to be producers. He goes on. The science of business is the knowledge of how to satisfy the natural needs of a human being in the manner that pleases God. When I first read that, I fell off my chair because I had started the study of business, as you all know, so many years ago. And I just, in dissecting it, dissecting economics, dissecting finance, dissecting accounting, dissecting all these components of business. And I remember just thinking, okay, what I started comparing that with my history and the knowledge that I have of trade and commerce and industry. And you all know I go deep into these things, the Industrial Revolution and the Silk Road and all of that. And this one statement tied it all together. He said, the science of business is the knowledge of how to satisfy the natural needs of a human being in the manner that pleases God. And one of the most blasphemous things, in my opinion, that has happened over the years, over the centuries to business is that people are separated from the manner in which they can satisfy their natural needs in a manner that pleases God. It's one of the most blasphemous things that has happened because we have to go to somebody else to satisfy those needs. And the way many of us are required to satisfy those needs are in a manner that does not please God. He then goes on to say business, which takes, of course, into consideration the acquisition of wealth, the proper use of wealth, or the creation of wealth, the making of a profit, the sale and distribution of what one makes, the creation of a means of satisfying necessities, food, clothing, shelter, and commerce. All of this is really a scientist. I'm going to read that whole little paragraph again and put it all together. The science of business is the knowledge of how to satisfy the natural needs of a human being in the manner that pleases God. Business, which takes, of course, into consideration the acquisition of wealth, the proper use of wealth, or the creation of wealth, the making of a product, the sale and distribution of what one makes, the creation of a means of satisfying necessities, food, clothing, shelter, and commerce. All of this is really a science. All right. So the goal, which is kind of like how he started, the goal is to satisfy the basic human needs in a manner that pleases God or Allah. Okay. And if you talk about doing that from a business standpoint, you're talking about the acquisition of wealth. So how you acquire the wealth, then how you use the wealth. Okay. And then making a product or service, and then how to distribute or sell that product or service to satisfy a means: food, clothing, shelter, trade, commerce. He says all of that's really a science. He goes on, when one does not know it, referring to those things we just talked about, when one does not know it, then we are subjected to the one who does know it. We become their servant and, at worst, their slave. So, if the enemy wanted to keep us as perpetual slaves, this then is a science that we were not to become familiar with, because that would free us from the state of dependence that a slave existence determines. This is heavy. Now, then he says, second is the science of warfare. One must know how to protect what one develops from an enemy. Y'all know we talk about on this show, we had a whole series on how our businesses were destroyed. We had over 1,000 Black settlements in the United States at one point during Reconstruction. Almost, or all of them, were physically destroyed through an act of terror, fires, cross burnings, killing people, accusations, environmental warfare, you name it. So he says that this is the second science, the science of warfare, which keeps us from being able to prevent what we developed through the science of business, which keeps us from being able to protect what we've developed through the science of business. Second is the science of warfare. Reading it again. One must know how to protect what one develops from an enemy. So the science of warfare is a science that can free you from an enemy as well as protect you from an enemy. Since the enemy did not want us ever to be freed from them, nor able to protect ourselves from their wickedness, they never wanted us to learn the science of warfare. So that's a whole nother science. And then he goes into the third science is the science of mating. To know how to properly marry this or that in order to produce a better future. They learn how to produce great horses, pedigreed dogs, and how to do this with other life in the animal kingdom. The same science is applicable in the human sphere. Then he says he touched an example where Caucasians used this knowledge among themselves in Europe. They did not wish for us to learn that science because that would mean that through proper mating, we might produce those that would free us from their grip, ultimately, and challenge their rulership over us and over the planet. So these three basic sciences were not to be taught to us. All right. Now, remember the other part of the question that Brother Jabril asked was about music. And if any of you follow the show, Mother Tynetta talked a lot about music, light, color. One of the things that's very important to me is the interpreting our culture, telling our history, sharing through the use of art. So we've had a number of art projects at the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House. We've had artistic expressions through opera. We've had plays. We've got some other art installations that we're working on, and things that we're sharing through art. So this whole concept is very important. And I began to incorporate art and music and light in my business development many years ago. So if you go into any properties that I've developed, you'll see like many art galleries, you'll see interpretations using art and sharing energy and creating energy fields through art, and the way in which I may decorate, making sure that everything in the decoration is infused with a certain spirituality and things like that. So on the side, I do a little bit of interior decorating. And so I try to go into a space and capture the energy and the spirit of the space. And then I try to capture the energy and spirit of the person, and then put together what I would call something like a sanctuary that fuels who they are and allows them to go further in life and further in their submission to the will of Allah. So that's kind of my interior design focus. So I'm not one of those persons, if you ask me to come in and help you interior design, that's just going to put what I want in there. And the reason why I started doing interior decorating is people always would compliment the places that I would build and decorate, whether it was a home or a property I was selling or something like that. But I also noticed that when I would bring an interior decorator, they would just want to do it the way they wanted to do it. Oh no, I want a red chair here and a purple chair here. Like what? So learning how to curate, I call it curating a space that comes from the energy that I feel from the other person. And so I'll just go in and I'll do an energy read. I'll do an energy read on the space. I'll do an energy read on the people. And if they're in a historic home, it's really easy because many of the historic homes were literally designed to pull in energy. Most of us live in square boxes, and so there's not a lot of higher end spiritual energy. So you have to create that on the inside. So you have to use your decor and the way you place things. Some people call it feng shui, whatever you call it, the colors you use, you have to create the energy that you're looking from, because the natural architecture of some of these newer spaces doesn't naturally provide for that. Okay. So that was my intro into this next part. Using, and I'll go back into this. When we built the hospital in Maryland, I put crystal chandeliers in to help with the healing energy. And so we strategically placed these elongated crystal chandeliers throughout the facility along and paired it with pieces of artwork. And we ended up with so much energy firing off that then the furniture, we toned it down a little bit with that. So the idea was that people would come out of surgery or be there recovering or whatever, and they'd be sitting in a space that would calibrate them. And in energy work, there's a certain frequency that is healing. And so we try to put them in a healing tone from even the music that was played. Even at the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House, whenever I have a playlist that was curated based on tone. And if you're a low tone person, you just wouldn't be able to stand it, because you wouldn't be able to stay at that tone. So when you come there and you hear people say, man, the opera was amazing, it was like a healing. I had people leaving the place saying, man, this was like a rapture. This was like a seance. I feel like a whole different person That's the idea, is to curate these spaces that represent healing, because I think that that's a lost art today. And the beautiful thing is being in a space like Chicago, where we have a lot of architecture that lends itself to that, but then also learning how to curate the inside so that if you live in a square box, you can get that energy. We have lots of property in Chicago that face Lake Michigan or overlook the city, and in a lot of cases in those spaces you can access general energy, but you have to curate the inside so that you bring certain energies to yourself when you sleep, all of that kind of thing. All right, so now this goes into, this is all from me. This is not from Closing the Gap. This is my interpretation and my little hobby that I like to do in curating spaces. He goes into now the science of music. He says, now we were taught the science of music, but we were never taught how to marry the science of music to the science of life. Interesting, right? Did you hear me say that we curate playlist and music that raises the vibrational tone? It's our baby attempt, at curating music so that it matches with the science of life. It's a little baby attempt. But anyway, I digress. He says, the minister goes on, he says, we were taught the science of medicine, but we were taught it in a way that we could never relate it spiritually to the overall sick condition of even the doctor who learned it, and to the sick condition of our people, and to the sick condition of our world. And so when you hear me talking about in those spaces, even in the wellness spa that I built, making sure that that music was addressing the low vibrational tones that come from people being ill or sick. And when you start to study these vibrational tones, you can tell when a person talks. You can tell by the questions they ask, the things they say, how they move, where they are on the tone scale, if you will. And so as a healer, you can say, let me either leave them there on that tone scale, because I don't want to go tit for tat, because I may have to do some destruction in order to do it. And it depends on where they are in your concentric circle in business. You may just go, I'm going to let you stay there on the tone scale. Or you may say, it may be somebody that's open to you helping them to raise their tone. And they may be even open to you telling them, hey, you're low tone right now. Let's raise it. So all of this is a science, okay? He says, we were in art courses that taught us the science of color, but we never learned how to apply it as a force for healing. So art, music, medicine, it's all part of creating that vibrational frequency. And again, even when I work on these of curating spaces, I'm always curating spaces that's going to incorporate that and almost become like medicine. So let me just read that whole paragraph again, because I got so excited and I interrupted a lot. This is from Closing the Gap, where Brother Jabril asked the minister a question. And the question he asked, let me give you the question again. Brother Minister, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that there were 3 scientific fields of knowledge that the slave master did not want the slaves to ever learn. What are those areas of knowledge, and what has that ignorance produced in us as a people? How does knowledge of music, medicine, and color help in overcoming that ignorance? And in this particular paragraph, he's answering about these subjects. He says, now we were taught the science of music, but we were never taught how to marry the science of music to the science of life. We were taught the science of medicine, but we were taught it in a way that we could never relate it to spiritually to the overall sick condition of even the doctor who learned it, and to the sick condition of our people, and to the sick condition of our world. We were in art courses that taught us the science of color, but we never learned how to apply it as a healing force. He goes on to say, it is only after learning the wisdom of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that we could utilize these various sciences and turn these sciences into instruments of healing. It is only after coming into the light of what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us of the knowledge of God and self and the enemy of God and self and the true religion of God that we could then go after the science of business, the science of warfare, and the science of mating, that we would never again be a slave to any man, dependent on other human beings for our food, clothing, and shelter, and the necessities of life, that we would become producers of this for ourselves. And the idea is to become producers. And what's happening today in many cases, or what has been happening, probably like the last almost 100 years, but at least the last 60 years, is that we have left the ailments of our community and of our people to somebody else to fix. And we got to the point where it's just like when you go to the doctor and the doctor gives you a treatment plan based upon what your insurance will pay for. But there may be other treatment plans that you can access that your insurance company did not approve. Well, most of us will be okay with limiting our treatment to what the insurance company will approve. We do the same thing with our social services issues, with our historical preservation issues. We only move as far as the funding that's given to us will allow. And so our social services and healing the ills of our community are primarily dependent upon government funding. And if that government funding goes away, now many of us are not open to addressing the issues in our community. So getting people to become more philanthropic, funding programs that may or may not have access to government grants and things like that. Some of us have become so scientific when it comes to going after funding that we've also forgot to incorporate the production side of it. How do we produce the healing? Because there's something about producing a healing system for yourself that is much more sustainable than a healing system that was prescribed for you that is not designed to address the issue at all. It's a whole science. So the idea is to become producers. And even to see ourselves as producers is also probably a first step for many of us. So when I put together a business, I'll work on coming up with several streams of monetization. And because I'm familiar with the science of warfare, I don't announce everything. So I say this to my clients all the time. If you go somewhere, you have a meeting, you're in a program, do not be so quick to jump up and post it on social media. The science of warfare is real. And so there are people out there that will see who you're with, who you're around. And let me tell you something. Some people are so predatory. They call themselves research experts. Like, oh, I'll dig into some stuff. They will look exactly at who you're in the picture with They may do a facial recognition. They may get the name because you tagged them. They're going to go to their social media page. Next thing you know, they're writing a letter or they're in a circle trying to figure out how to boot you out of whatever it is that you're doing. Be mindful of that, especially now when free resources are becoming limited. And sometimes our scope is so small that we think it's somebody that we know that's doing that, but oftentimes it's somebody that we don't know. I know how people will say, okay, I'm going to go, and they go on social media and they may look at all your pages, all the different business people out here, and they'll say, okay, I'm going to do that. I want to do this. I want to do that. And they start looking at those folks that you're working with. If you say, oh, I just got this, big donation, or congratulations to me, they're circling around behind you. And some of us feel like, well, they can't do nothing, but you never know. So I tell people, be mindful of what you offer to the public. Okay. Everything ain't for everybody to know. Everybody don't have to know who you're dating. Everybody don't have to know what you're doing in your personal life. Keep some things close to your chest. A classy person is not necessarily an open book. And even when you meet people, understand where they are sitting in your concentric circles, which also means how much access to information do they have. This has nothing to do with them. Because here's the other piece of it. I think we overfocus and we go, oh, that's because they talk too much, or they this or that. They may very well, but I keep it focused on myself because this is something that I keep private. And I know that it may not be a private manner to you because I know you're like that. Then this particular internal thing that's very private to me, I'm not going to offer access. And it has nothing to do with chopping them down or hurting them or making them feel a certain way. Every time you're interacting with a person, they're letting you know where they should go in those concentric circles and whether they should even be in one of the circles or not. So they're letting you know every step of the way. All right. So, and we got to be okay with that. Don't waste your time once a person makes you feel uncomfortable dissecting them. Some people feel a little discomfort with somebody and they'll spend all day and all night talking about it, dissecting it, sharing with whoever will listen. They'll even go as far as to dig up dirt on you and see what they can say that's negative about you, and who does she think she is and who he think he is, and blah, blah, blah. You're really wasting your time and you're wallowing in a vibrational space that's not productive for you. So the way you do that is it's okay to say, maybe this person is not my cup of tea, or maybe they're my cup of tea, but I need to add a little sugar to it. Maybe they need a little cream. Maybe we need a little more hot water. Maybe I need to kind of push it out a little bit. Maybe I need to change my expectations. So it's not about shooting negative energy towards somebody and engaging in a low vibrational tone to where you become, here's the thing, this is somebody's word right here. When you spend time doing that, you have to become what you say they are in order to get that point across. And so my thing is, you trick and you hack the energy system and you say, okay, this is going in another concentric circle. It's like, if you're in a forest and you find certain elements, well, this particular herb may be a healing herb, but this particular flower may be great for decoration. They have two different purposes. And I'm not going to get mad at the healing herb because I can't necessarily bring it into the house because it don't look cute. I'm just going to say, I picked that healing herb when I need healing. I'm going to still nurture it. I'm going to still water it. I'm going to still take care of it. But I leave it there until I need it or until it's time for its purpose. But I'm not going to go into a low vibrational tone, making a comparison between the beautiful flower and this ugly herb over here. I hope this is making sense to you all. All right. The minister goes on to say, again, this is from Closing the Gap. We thank Allah for his coming and giving to us such a masterful teacher as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The next question, this is Brother Jabril talking, opened with, now we come to all of these scientists from another angle, or I should say, from the ultimate perspective. Here is where we get into not just the explanation of all things, but the roots of this explanation. The fact that this has been explained is enough to tell us that God is present. Okay, that's from September 13, 2002. There's a little bit more to that, but I'm going to stop there because I know we're going to end in a few minutes, and I'm going to go to you all's comments. If you have any questions, let me make sure there's not a piece of this that I should. Oh man, I gotta do this. I gotta read this part to y'all. Let's see if I can get through how much time we got. Let's see how much of this I can get through, because you guys gotta hear this part. All right. So then after that, this was published in the final call in his column called Farrakhan the Traveler, volume 22, number 2, and it's also published in Closing the Gap. He says, here are the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's concluding answers to the May 1st interview. Brother Jabril, now we come to all of, this is Brother Jabril talking. He says, now we come to all of these scientists from another angle, or I should say from the ultimate perspective. One day you told us that the subject of love came up between you and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. You said he was deepening you and the others there on this subject. You said he raised the question to you, what is love? It's had everything to do with the science of business, y'all. You gave an answer, and he then went on to teach that love is freedom, justice, and equality. Now, of course, you know he taught us that freedom, justice, and equality are related to the sun, stars, and the moon, in that the sun, the stars, and the moon were symbols of or signs of freedom, justice, and equality. Brother Minister, since freedom, justice, and equality undergirds our successes in the use of the other 6 sciences for which you've commented, how then is freedom, justice, and equality love? Right? Then Minister Farrakhan answers this. He says, it would seem to me that freedom, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us, is essential to life. So is justice. So is equality. There are basic essentials to life. Since God is the author of life, he is the source of these basic essentials of life. Freedom. Everything he created always starts from a seed or something small and insignificant. But in order for us to see what it is, that it may glorify God who gave it to us, it must be free to develop. Once it develops, it justifies its existence and is equal to all things in creation. I could break that down from a business standpoint, but I'm going to keep going. He created everything out of this awesome power of love. He, meaning Allah, created everything out of this awesome power of love. Then he created all things to be free, to be justified, and to be equal. It is only when we help people to develop the best that is in themselves so that they must justify their existence and thus become equal to everything else that justifies its existence, that we demonstrate that we love. Naturally, parents love their children, but freedom is not license. Freedom has to be within the sphere of a law that regulates the behavior of the creature so that it does not destroy the life that it has been given. There are laws, this is me talking. There are laws of the universe, laws that are given to us. I'm not necessarily talking about law meaning I'm talking about spiritual laws. And physical laws that are given to us that help us to protect the life that we are being given. Very powerful. So there is no love without freedom. There is no freedom without love that restricts us from that which is destructive or being, and that would disallow us to justify our existence, thus making us equal to all things in creation. Love is life and life is love. There is no life without freedom, justice, and equality, and there is no love without the same. I'm going to stop there because he goes into some creative stuff, but it's very powerful when we are dissecting the science, the art and science of business as we did in the book. And we break down how that relates and connects to freedom, justice, and equality. And then on a very basic level, how it ties in to our ability to participate in the activity of life itself. It's incredible. Very incredible. So thank you all for joining this morning. I see you, Brother Lamont says, good morning. Wa alaikum salam. Happy Saturday. Mom is here. She says, happy Saturday, everyone. I see 704 Joe. Good morning, Black people. Peace from Allah's 5% nation of gods and the earth. Peace, brother. Who is this? Sister Mildred says, wa alaikum salam. Oh, y'all thinking today, because I see a bunch of y'all here, but y'all not commenting. That's okay. It's all right. You don't got to comment. But thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. I hope that this helped to open up something in all of us. I hope it helps to raise an awareness so that we can address the needs that we have, so that we can do a better job at submission, a better job at alignment, a better job at interacting with one another. And so I wanted to share that this morning, and I hope that you will share it with people. Let's see. Anything I need to remind you of? Y'all know what to do. Y'all seen it going across the screen over here. If you support Cash App, Sajda Enterprises, you can Zelle. You can do that. If you want to grab the book, you can go here. I did some tweaks to my personal website. So you can go to sajdawendymuhammad.com. Some of y'all are used to going to wendymuhammad.com. You can go to either one. They all go to the same site. Go there. You can learn more about my business advisory services, some of the consulting work that I'm doing, how my breast is beginning to expand in terms of services that I offer and things that I'm able to share with you. And my advisory and my coaching style primarily comes out of the breadth of my experiences. I like to say that I'm a coach with receipts. So I'm not one of these persons that's just talking in theory. And if we do have to tackle a problem that you have that requires that we go into some research or some theory, I'm going to let you know. Okay. Yeah. So stay tuned, stay close to social media. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoy the channel. And I've been playing a few reruns here and there. I may pick a few and replay. I may just replay this show a little later today. So if you see me live, jump on, comment. It helps the algorithms, but they get a little crazy when you start talking about money. That's why sometimes I don't put the subject, because if I put the subject, then the algorithm doesn't send it out, or you start having all kinds of issues. But if I just don't say anything, then it goes smooth like it did today. it is what it is, right? It's all about the science of warfare out here, and the science of what now is encoded into algorithms that are now preventing us from having access to things that we may or may not want. And then there's bots that will go out and make comments. So if you're posting and reposting things, pay attention to the comments, because those bots are designed. You'll see them because sometimes they'll say the same thing over and over again. Anytime you mention like the word slave or colonizer, there's a bot that'll come in and say, what a victim mentality, or something like that. If you start talking about like historic preservation, there's a bot that I think is triggered that'll say something like, why are you living in the past? And because I kind of post some of the same subjects, I'll see those bots that'll keep coming up. So you just have to go in, delete them, block them. But this is now in the programming of what we have access to on social media. And so I try to program and curate, whether it's my YouTube or my social media, so certain things that are productive to me will pop up, and the other things, I may not necessarily see. So sometimes we have to start thinking like that. You may need to have another device that you don't log into with your own personal email, and you go out to social media or YouTube in that way. And maybe your personal stuff, you make sure you curate it with what it is that you like and what's important to you. And then that way you can still keep up on pop culture if you want. And then you can still keep your algorithm feeding you what it is that you need. But these are all just social media defense mechanisms that we have to learn. But pay attention to those comments, because there's definitely bots that are written that are triggered by historic buildings, historic preservation, the word museum. They'll just restrict the distribution, slavery, history, and sometimes they make comments. And the reason why I know that they're bots, because it'll be the same one. Sometimes it'll have a user with no picture and then just a bunch of numbers as the username. Just delete and block those. So, we just got to play a little defense. Okay, family, love you all. Don't go anywhere. Make sure you support the completion of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House. We're almost done with the database. We're going to be bringing it to you and letting you know that you can go out here and register your commemorative Elijah coin. And once you register this coin, you're going to be in the membership database. And don't think you can go out here and make up a coin, because we got all the numbers recorded. We got a list of them, be in the database, and it's just a matter of matching them up with people. And it's going to be heavily monitored. So we're working on all of that. Once you get this, you will have access to certain things that we're doing, and certain discounts, and even some of the special exhibits that we're working on that we know are going to be really big internationally, and we can't accommodate large numbers. If you have your registration number on your coin, you'll be able to have first access to that thing. And then some of the other people may just be on live stream. But we'll figure that out. But the first step is we're testing it out right now, and mapping out how many people it's going to take, how to monitor it, making sure we have the right security system that it sits on, and things like that. But I told y'all that these coins, when Allah gave me the idea, let me tell you, I just can't wait to share all the things that have come into the atmosphere because just from these coins. So make sure you get it. You can go to ElijahMuhammadHouse.com, sajdahouse.com. Scroll down to the bottom. I think it says shop with us or something like that. And you can grab the coins. The supplies are limited. And so once these copper ones that are made from the copper, made of recycled copper from the messenger's home are gone, we may have others, but it's not going to be these. And likely may not be minted. These are minted because of the material and the special material that it comes from, this over 100-year-old copper that's from the messenger's home. So they're minted like this. And if you've ever been in any kind of coin store, you know that this is how collectors collect their coins. Okay. Okay, family, I'm going to let you all go. I'm so full right now. I could say so much more, but I'm going to leave it at that. So grab your coin, keep it close. Give us a couple more. The holidays are coming up. Give us a couple of more weeks, maybe even through the end of December, to finish really tweaking this system that we're putting together, because you're going to get so much more than, your membership is going to come with a lot. And so there's digital twins that are going to come with this. And so we're working on all of that. And the key thing right now is just keeping the integrity of it, because literally probably once a week I get some investor that wants to buy this concept and take it from us, only because it's a limited amount of copper that came from the home. All right. So we got something here. Okay, family, love you all. See you all soon, inshallah. Stay close. I'll let you know when I'm going live and some of the other great things that are going on this week. Peace and blessings. Happy holidays.
The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who in my judgment is the master historian, taught us that of all our studies, history is the most attractive, and it is best qualified to reward the researcher. History is most attractive. Why should history be most attractive? Because history is the recorded time of the human family in its struggle to overcome obstacles. There is no life that is without struggle. The Holy Quran teaches us that man, meaning man and woman, is made to face difficulties. And after difficulty comes ease. But it is history that guides us through difficulty. For if you know how people who had difficulty yesterday got through, and if your difficulty is somewhat similar, then today we also can get through if we follow the guidance of history. This is why Carter G. Woodson and many of our black giants fought for black people to know our history. Because in not knowing our history, we don't have a guide. And without a guide, we are lost. No wonder the